Ajanulambita bhujo kanakavadato samkirtane kapitaro kamalaya taksho Vishvambaro dvijavaro yugadharma palo vande jagapriyakaro karunavataro Deyam sada paribhavagnam abhishtadoham tirtasvaram shiva virinchinutam sharanyam Vrityartiham pranatapala pababdipotam vande mahapurushate charanaravindam Tyaktva sadhusya jasarepshita raja lakshmin dharmista arya vajasa yadagararanyam Mayam rigam dayita epsitam badavad vande mahapurushate Charanāravindam. I can see Yogadisha's chanting them. He's the head of the Shastra Mandal. I mean the Shastra Jam. So you know it would all rub off on him, right? Okay, so we're continuing with the Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-līlā, chapter 13, and we're up to text number 66. Just as Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa formally performed the Rasa-līlā dance and other pastimes in Vṛndāvana, Lord Chaitanya Mahāprabhu performed uncommon pastimes moment after moment. Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing before the Ratha-yatra car could be perceived only by pure devotees. Others could not understand. Descriptions of Lord Krishna's uncommon dancing can be found in the revealed scripture Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Purport: Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa expanded himself into many forms while engaged in the Rasa-līlā dance. And he also expanded himself when he married 16,000 wives in Dvārakā. The same process was adopted by Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu when he expanded himself into 7 forms to dance in each and every group of the Sankirtan party. These expansions were appreciated by pure devotees, including King Prataparudra. Although for reasons of external formality, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu refused to see King Prataparudra because he was a king. King Prataparudra became one of the Lord's most confidential devotees by the Lord's special mercy upon him. The king could see Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu simultaneously present in all 7 groups. As confirmed in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, one cannot see the expansions of the transcendental forms of the Lord unless one is a pure devotee of the Lord. In this way, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu danced in great jubilation and inundated all the people with waves of ecstatic love. Thus Lord Jagannātha mounted his car, and Lord Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu inspired all his devotees to dance in front of it. Now please hear about Lord Jagannāth going to the Guṇḍicā temple while Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu danced before the Rath car. The Lord performed kirtan for some time, and through his own endeavor inspired all the devotees to dance. When the Lord himself wanted to dance, all 7 groups combined together. The Lord's devotees, including Srivas, Ramai, Raghu, Govinda, Mukunda, Haridas, Govinda Nanda, Madhava and Govinda, all combined together. When Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu desired to jump high while dancing, he placed these 9 people in the charge of Swarup Damodar. These devotees, Swarup Damodar and the devotees in his charge, sang along with the Lord, and they also ran beside him. All the other groups of men also sang. Offering obeisances to the Lord with folded hands, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu raised his face towards Jagannātha and prayed as follows. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagatidaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Krishna, who is the worshipable deity for all Brahminical men, who is the well-wisher of cows and brahmanas, and who is always benefiting the whole world. I offer my repeated obeisances to the personality of Godhead known as Krishna and Govinda. This is a quotation from the Vishnu Purana. Jayati Devo Devaki Nandana Sao Jayati Jayati Krishna Vrishni Vamsha Pradeepa, Jayati Jayati Megha Shamala Komalango, Jayati Jayati Prithvi Bhara Nasho Mukunda. All glories unto the personality of Godhead, who is known as the son of Devaki. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the light of the dynasty of Vrishni. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose bodily luster is like that of a new cloud, and whose body is as soft as a lotus flower. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared on this planet to deliver the world from the burden of demons, and who can offer liberation to everyone. That verse was from the Mukunda Mala. Jayati Janani Vaso Devaki Janmavado Yadu Vara Parishad Swayar Dhorbir Asyana Dharma Stirachara Vijinana Susmita Shri Mukena Rajapura Vanitanam Vardayang Kamadevam. Lord Shri Krishna is he who is known as Janani Vasa, the ultimate resort of all living entities, and who is also known as Devaki Nandana or Yashoda Nandana, the son of Devaki and Yashoda. He is the guide of the Yadu dynasty, and with his mighty arms he kills everything inauspicious as well as every man who is impious. By his presence he destroys all things inauspicious for all living entities, moving and inert. His blissful smiling face always increases the lusty desires of the gopīs of Vṛndāvana. May he be all glorious and happy. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:90-48. Just a word about that verse. It's mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that actually I think Jiva Goswami's commentary. He says that Shukadeva Goswami had anticipated that people would pine for Lord Krishna and lament that they weren't present for his pastimes. And therefore he wrote this verse to appease those people. And the evidence he gives us, it's written in the present tense, Jayati, that the Lord is presently victorious. And how is he victorious? It's through all the ways mentioned here, but these things are going on now. And he wanted to give this to encourage those who came after he left the world to feel that by hearing Krishna Katha, by discussing amongst themselves, those who would study the Srimad Bhagavatam and remember the pastimes of the Lord, would also be in the presence of the Lord and experience the same thing that those who were present when Krishna was here experienced. I'm not a naham vipro nacha narapatir napi vaishyo nshudro nam barni nacha gripatir no vanasto yatirva kintu prodyan nikila paramananda purnamratab der gopi bartu parakamalayor das anudasaha. I'm not a brahmana, I'm not a kshatriya, I'm not a vaishya or a shudra, nor am I a brahmachari, a householder, a vanaprastha, or a sannyasi. I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopīs. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. This is verse 74 from the Padyavali, an anthology of verses compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. Having recited all these verses from Scripture, the Lord again offered his obeisances, and all the devotees with folded hands also offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Lord Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu danced and jumped high, roaring like thunder and moving like a circle moving in a circle like a wheel, he appeared like a circling firebrand. If a burning cinder of a firebrand is whirled about very swiftly, it gives the appearance of a circle of fire. This is called alata akara, or a lata chakra, a firebrand circle. This whole circle is not actually made of fire, but is a single fire in motion. Similarly, Lord Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu is a single personality, but when he jumped high in a circle, he appeared like the Alata Chakra. It's fire in motion. You are a Alata Chakra. Whenever Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu stepped, wherever Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu stepped while dancing, the whole earth with its hills and seas appeared to tilt. When Caitanya Mahāprabhu danced, he displayed various blissful transcendental changes in his body. Sometimes he appeared as though stunned. Sometimes the hairs of his body stood on end. Sometimes he perspired, cried, trembled, and changed color. Sometimes he exhibited symptoms of helplessness, pride, exuberance, and humility. When Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu fell down with a crash while dancing, he would roll on the ground. At such times it appeared that a golden mountain was rolling on the ground. Nityananda Prabhu would stretch out his two hands and try to catch the Lord when he was running here and there. Advaitacharya would walk behind the Lord and loudly chant, Haribo! Haribo! Again and again. Just to check the crowds from coming too near the Lord, the devotees formed three circles. The first circle was guided by Nityananda Prabhu, who was Balaram himself, the possessor of great strength. All the devotees headed by Kashishvara and Govinda linked hands and formed the second circle around the Lord. Is this going to be on your next quiz? Mahaprabhu and his personal assistants formed a third circle around the two inner circles just to check the crowds from coming too near. With his hands on his shoulders of Harichandana, King Prataparuja could see Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu dancing, and the king felt great ecstasy. While the king beheld the dancing, Śrīvas Thakur, standing in front of him, became ecstatic as he saw the dancing of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Seeing Śrīvas Thakur standing before the king, Harichandana touched Śrīvas with his hand and requested him to step aside. Absorbed in watching Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu dance, Śrīvas Thakur could not understand why he was being touched and pushed. After he was pushed again and again, he became angry. Śrīvas slapped Harichandana to stop him from pushing him. In turn, this made Harichandana angry. As the angered Harichandana was about to speak to Śrīvas Thakur, Prataparuja Maharaj personally stopped him. King Prataparuja said, "You are very fortunate, for you have been graced by the touch of Śrīvas Thakur. I am not so fortunate. You should feel obliged to him." Everyone was astonished by the dancing of Caitanya Mahāprabhu, and even Lord Jagannātha became extremely happy to see him. The car came to a complete standstill and remained immobile while Lord Jagannātha, with unblinking eyes, watched the dancing of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. The goddess of fortune, Subhadra, and Lord Balaram both felt great happiness and ecstasy within their hearts. Indeed, they were seen smiling at the dancing. When Caitanya Mahāprabhu danced and jumped high, 8 wonderful transformations indicative of divine ecstasy were seen in his body. All these symptoms were visible simultaneously. His skin erupted with goose pimples, and the hairs of his body stood on end. His body resembled shamuli, silk cotton tree, all covered with thorns. Indeed, the people became afraid just to see his teeth chatter, and they even thought that his teeth would fall out. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu's whole body flowed with perspiration and at the same time oozed blood. He made the sound Jaja Gaga in a voice choked with ecstasy. Tears came forcefully from the eyes of the Lord as if from a syringe, and all the people surrounding him became wet. Everyone saw the complexion of his body change from white to pink, so that his luster resembled that of a malika flower. Sometimes he appeared stunned, and sometimes he rolled on the ground. Indeed, sometimes his legs and hands became as hard as dry wood, and he did not move. When the Lord fell to the ground, sometimes his breathing almost stopped. When the devotees saw this, their lives also became very feeble. Water flowed from his eyes and sometimes through his nostrils, and foam fell from his mouth. These flowings appeared to be torrents of nectar descending from the moon. The foam that fell from the mouth of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu was taken and drunk by Shubhananda because he was very fortunate and expert in relishing the mellow of ecstatic love of Krishna. After Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu had performed his devastating dance, for some time his mind entered into a mood of ecstatic love. After abandoning the dancing, the Lord ordered Swarup Damodar to sing. Understanding his mind, Swarup Damodar began to sing as follows. Seta Purana Purananata Painu Jahalagi Madanada Hani Judi Genu. Now I have gained the Lord of my life, in the absence of whom I was being burned by Cupid and was withering away. This song refers to Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī's meeting with Krishna at the holy place of Kurukṣetra, where Lord Śrī Krishna and his brother and sister came to visit when there was a solar eclipse. It is a song of separation from Krishna. When Radharani met Krishna at Kurukṣetra, she remembered his intimate association in Vṛndāvana, and she thought, now I have gained the Lord of my life. In his absence I was being burned by the arrow of Cupid, and thus I was withering away. Now I have my life again. When this refrain was loudly sung by Swarup Damodar, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu again began rhythmically dancing in transcendental bliss. The car of Lord Jagannātha began to move more slowly, while the son of Mother Shachi went ahead and danced in the front. While dancing and singing, all the devotees in front of Lord Jagannātha kept their eyes on him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to the end of the procession with the Sankirtan performers. His eyes and mind fully absorbed in Lord Jagannātha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to play the drama of the song with his two arms. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dramatically enacting the song, he would sometimes fall behind in the procession. At such times, Lord Jagannātha would come to a standstill. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again went forward, Lord Jagannāth's car would slowly start again. Thus, there was a sort of competition between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannātha in seeing who would lead. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so strong that he made Lord Jagannātha wait in his car. In his Anubhāṣya, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura describes the ecstasy of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu as follows. After giving up the company of the gopīs in Vṛndāvana, Śrī Krishna, son of Mahārāja Nanda, engaged in his pastimes at Dvārakā. When Krishna went to Kṛṣetra with his brother and sister and others from Dvārakā, he again met the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu is the rādhā-bhāva-dyuti-suvalita. That is, Krishna himself assuming the part of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī in order to understand Krishna. Lord Jagannātha-deva is Krishna, and Śrī Kṛṣṇa Caitanya Mahāprabhu is Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's leading Lord Jagannātha toward the Guṇḍicā temple corresponded to Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī's leading Krishna toward Vṛndāvana. Śrī Kṣetra, Jagannātha Purī, was taken as the kingdom of Dvārakā, the place where Krishna enjoys supreme opulence. But he was being led there by Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu to Vṛndāvana, the simple village where all the inhabitants are filled with ecstatic love for Krishna. Śrī Kṣetra is a place of aiśvarya-līlā, just as Vṛndāvana is the place of mādhurya-līlā. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu's following at the rear of the Rath indicated that Lord Jagannath, Krishna, was forgetting the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. Although Krishna neglected the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana, he could not forget them. Thus, in his opulent Ratha-yatra, he was returning to Vṛndāvana. In the role of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu was examining whether the Lord still remembered the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. When Caitanya Mahāprabhu fell behind the Rath car, Jagannātha-deva, Kṛṣṇa himself, understood the mind of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. Therefore, Jagannath sometimes fell behind the dancing Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu to indicate to Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī that he had not forgotten. Thus, Lord Jagannath would stop the forward march of the Rath and wait at a standstill. In this way, Lord Jagannāth agreed that without the ecstasy of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, he could not feel satisfied. While Jagannath was thus waiting, Gaurasundar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasy of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, immediately came forward to Krishna. At such times, Lord Jagannath would proceed ahead very slowly. These competitive exchanges were all part of the love affair between Krishna and Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. In that competition between Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy for Jagannath and Jagannath's ecstasy for Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emerged successful. While Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu was dancing, his ecstasy changed. Raising his two arms, he began to recite the following verse in a loud voice. Yako marharasa eva hivaras ta eva chaitra shapas te kon militamalati surabhaya prodakadambanila sa chaivasmitata pitatra surata vyapara-līlā vido revarorasi vedasi tarutale cheta samutkantate. One more time. Revarorasi vedasi tarutale Cheta samutkantate. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu ki. That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover, yet still my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vatasi tree. That is my desire. This verse appears in the Padyavali 386. This verse was recited by Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu again and again. But for Swarup Damodar, no one could understand its meaning. I have already explained this verse. Now I shall simply describe it in brief. In this connection, see Madhya-līlā chapter 1, verses 53, 77 through 80, and 82 through 84. Formerly, all the gopīs of Vṛndāvana were very pleased when they met with Krishna in the holy place of Kurukṣetra. Similarly, after seeing Lord Jagannath, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu awoke with the ecstasy of the gopīs. Being absorbed in this ecstasy, he asked Swarup Damodar to sing the refrain. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu spoke to Lord Jagannath, "You are the same Krishna, and I am the same Radharani. We are meeting again in the same way that we met in the beginning of our lives. Although we are both the same, my mind is still attracted to Vṛndāvan Dham. I wish that you will please again appear with your lotus feet in Vṛndāvan. In Kurukṣetra there are crowds of people, elephants and horses, and also the rattling of chariots. But in Vṛndāvan there are flower gardens and the humming of the bees and chirping of the birds can be heard. Here at Kurukṣetra, you are dressed like a royal prince, accompanied by great warriors. But in Vṛndāvana, you appeared just like an ordinary cowherd boy, accompanied only by your beautiful flute. Here, there's not even a drop of the ocean of transcendental happiness that I enjoyed with you in Vṛndāvana. I therefore request you to come to Vṛndāvana and enjoy pastimes with me. If you do so, my ambition will be fulfilled. I have already described in brief Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī's statement from Śrīmad Bhagavatam. In that ecstatic mood, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu recited many other verses, but people in general could not understand their meaning. The meaning of the verses was known to Swarup Damodar Goswami, but he did not reveal it. However, Sri Rupa has broadcast the meaning. While dancing, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu began to recite the following verse, which he tasted in the association of Swarup Damodar. Didn't we do it to the Shiva Ranjani? You don't remember? Yogeshvara Hridi Vichintya Ahushchate Nalina Nabhapadada Vindam Yogeshvara Hridi Vichintya Maghada Bodhai Samsara Kupam Patitam Taranam Geham Dusham Vapi Manas Riyat Sadhana. Something like that. The gopis spoke thus, Dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are only ordinary persons engaged in household affairs. Purport, this is a quotation from Śrīmad Bhagavatam 1082-48. The gopis were never interested in karma yoga, jnana yoga, or dhyana yoga. They were simply interested in bhakti yoga. Unless they were forced, they never liked to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. Rather, they preferred to take the lotus feet of the Lord and place them on their breasts. Sometimes they regretted that their breasts were so hard, feeling that Krishna might not be very pleased to keep his soft lotus feet there. When those lotus feet were pricked by the grains of sand in the Vṛndāvana pasturing ground, the gopis were pained and began to cry. The gopis wanted to keep Krishna at home always, and in this way their minds were absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Such pure Krishna consciousness can arise only in Vṛndāvana. Thus Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu began to explain his own mind, which was saturated in the ecstasy of the gopis. Anyera hridaya nana Mora mana Vṛndāvana Vane vane ekakare jani Tahanto ma paradvaya Karahadyadi udaya Tabe toma prana kripam hani. Something. Speaking in the mood of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, Caitanya Mahāprabhu said, For most people the mind and heart are one, but because my mind is never separated from Vṛndāvana, I consider my mind and Vṛndāvana to be one. My mind is already Vṛndāvana, and since you like Vṛndāvana, will you please place your lotus feet there? I would deem that your full mercy. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing, by which the mind accepts materially favorable things. and rejects the unfavorable. This is the consciousness of people in general. But when the mind does not accept and reject, but simply becomes fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna, then one's mind becomes as good as Vṛndāvana. Wherever Krishna is, there also are Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, the gopīs, the cowherd boys, and all the other inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. Thus, as soon as one fixes Krishna in his mind becomes identical with Vṛndāvana. In other words, when one's mind is completely free from all material desires and is engaged only in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one always lives in Vṛndāvana and nowhere else. Let's take a few reflections or questions. Mane vane ekakare jani Mukharavind, and then Yogadish.
Maharaj, I was just seeing that how intelligently King Prataparudra specified the situation, the hating situation that arose of the Harichandan and Srivas Thakur, and he brought that yeah, I am not that fortunate that I got that slap. You are the one that were fortunate that he told in such a way that yeah, it's not he made anyone accusing, but he just expressed his emotion, and naturally that was so Krishna conscious response that every party got satisfied.
Nice observation, thank you. Yogadish.
Hare Krishna. We just read the verse that had a really nice purport by Srila Prabhupada, where he described the parallels between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime with the Ratha-yatra and then Kṛṣṇa Himself, the mood of Radharani. And I was wondering if I understood that purport correctly. It was suggesting that Jagannātha Purī represented Dvārakā, whereas the Guṇḍicā temple represented Vṛndāvana.
That's correct.
And I was wondering if there's any other commentaries or additional parallels specifically about Guṇḍicā representing Vṛndāvana, especially since we just read about the Guṇḍicā temple, the cleaning of the Guṇḍicā temple.
Are there other descriptions of that? Yes. There will be further when they come closer to Guṇḍicā. That's the general idea, yes.
Oh, so it'll come up later it sounds like.
Not that I know of like extensive commentaries, other than the fact that there are other pastimes that take place there, like when Lakshmi Devi gets exasperated because her husband took off on her, and she sends all her servants out there to berate all of the followers of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu and bind them and stuff like that. There's more pastimes around Guṇḍicā.
I see. Thank you.
But what else would you like to know about it?
I was just curious if there's more parallels. Sometimes we see the acharyas in their commentaries, they'll point out other details that are, oh yeah, this represents that. Or I was wondering if there's more like that given.
We'll keep our antennae out to see if there's anything more like that.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Nityatarangani.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. There is one reflection and one question. Apara Gaurangi Mataji has shared some verses she found regarding Lord Kapila explaining the glories of devotional service and the section talking about the glories of devotees and their association.
Because we had some question about that. I also got something from Sudhira. We'll see if it's the same.
So she shared the verses from Canto 3, Chapter 25. Verses are from 20 to 26.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what he said.
Canto 3, Chapter 25. Verses 20 to 26.
Three, 25, then
20 to 26.
Prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kaviyo vidu. Sa esha sadhushu krito mokshadwaram apavritam. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But the same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotee, opens the door of liberation. Then, 21, Titikshava Kurunika Surija Sarvadehinam Ajata Shatrava Shanta Sarva Sadhubhushana, as was predicted by Mahendra Prabhu. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. Then we have 22, Mayananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvati yedridam makrite tyakva karmanas tyakva swajana bandhavaha. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. Mad ashraya katam rishta shrinvanti katayanticha tapanti vibhadashtapa naitan madgatachetasa. Engaged constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. Ta ete sarvasadvi sarvasanga vivarjita. Can you give the reference from the purport where we have that question? She didn't include that, did she?
No, she did not.
I think it was 190 something, 1400.
What do you have, a photographic memory?
No, I try to remember because of research.
Is text 190 from which chapter?
I think it was from...
It's text 186 from chapter 12.
Chapter 12. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We demand answers. Okay, chapter 12.
Text 186.
That's in this book. 12. 186. Here it is. Thus there is no one within these three worlds save for Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, who is always so willing to increase the glories of the devotees and give them satisfaction. In this regard, one should consult the discussion between Kapila-deva and Devahuti on the subject matter of devotional service. This is found in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto. Well, that's a lot more generic than I remember, because it's just about the discussion of Kapila-deva. Yeah. Anyway, it is what it is, and it's very nice. Okay, Lokaram. Would you like a microphone?
No,
We can provide. I know a few people don't need it, but you're not one of them. Okay, go
Hare
ahead.
Krishna. In the Bangla, it says Bhakta Mahima, Bhakta Mahima. So the glories of devotees. So it does seem like a good fit, that section that Mataji found. Prabhupada in his purport just says, on the subject matter of devotional service, but the verse is specifically talking about the glories of devotees.
The greatness of devotees.
Yeah.
that's the chapter.
Bhakta.
Subject of devotion.
Yeah. So, big picture and small picture.
Glories of the devotees. Yes, Mukharavind, and then Mahendra.
Maybe Maharaj, I want to put 38th verse for this.
You would like to enter into evidence?
In the 25th chapter, same 25th chapter, verse number 38.
Okay, let's hear it.
The Lord continued, "My dear mother, Devotees who receive such transcendental opulence are never bereft of them. Neither weapons nor the change of time can destroy such opulence. Because the devotee accept me as their friend, their relative, their son, preceptor, benefactor and supreme deity, they cannot be deprived of their possession at any time.
Lady Haiti. Yeah, great verse. Thank you. Any other points?
I just remember this pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat when Maharaj Prataprudra was observing the dance of Mahaprabhu and this extraordinary symptoms of ecstasy, especially the water coming from his nose and saliva, and he was rolling on the ground covered with dust, and he was very astonished and happy. But when he went back, he had this nagging doubt how Mahaprabhu looked. So when he fell asleep, and Jagannātha appeared, and then he ran towards the deity, and but then he saw that Jagannātha was covered with saliva and dust, and he said, "Go away, go away. When I'm opulent and I'm sitting in the throne, and then I'm fitting for your, worship and embrace. But when I'm dancing and rolling in the ground, I become untouchable." And then he turned into Mahaprabhu and in the dream, and Maharaj Prataprudra was very, very
From
happy.
Chaitanya Bhagavat.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Perfectly placed. Okay, I'm looking outside to the outside people's party, and Nitya Tarangani has more.
There is one question from online audience. This is from Pritipurna Madhavi Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, can you please elaborate on the slapping incident of Harichandan so it may not be misapplied or given wrong reference for?
Well, it's a very down-to-earth occurrence, especially in a big crowd. Have you ever been in a crowded temple room and get an elbow in your ribs? Yeah. And you look over and some lady is just charging past, knocking everybody out of her way. I mean, is the first thing that comes from your mind is like, thank you, Mataji. So, yes, Davina.
Hare Krishna. One time in Mayapur I was doing crowd control, and Harisori Prabhu came over, and he told me that Prabhupada mentioned to him when he was doing the same, he said, when you do crowd control, this is crowd control situation, you have to push. Otherwise you don't get the job done, but you have to smile. Because if you don't smile, people will fight back. So keep pushing, but keep smiling. Okay. And the more you smile, the more you can push. And sometimes you may even, have to shove, or, I remember one time we were at Kumbh Mela, and all of a sudden Śrīla Radharāṇī Maharaj said, we want to go take bath now. And, it's right before the big procession, before those of you who've been there, you know what that means. It's like the army and everybody's out there, barricades, millions of people. So we just formed like a needle formation, Shuchimukha. And I was in front and I was just chanting, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev. And I was just running between the legs of the people because there was no place. There was chock-a-block. So just between the legs of the people. And Maharaj was holding on to my kurta and a couple more guys behind. So it was like 4 or 5 of us. We were just charging through. And yeah, if you do it for service, then you can get away with it. But then on the way back, I hid my toe in one of those metal plates where the trucks drive on. One of those plates were a little up, and I saw the stars. So I realized that, yeah, we have to be careful when we do this type of service, so that the mood, that the attitude is in the right way, and sometimes it pushes back. So don't get surprised when somebody may flinch and take you on.
Well, at the Janmashtami, I have it from my vantage point, because I'm usually in one place. and I can see how the crowd control is going on there. I appreciate it when the devotees they do smile and they move people, but they're really careful. I mean, gestures can irritate people. If you're too demanding or looks like you're trying to control them, psychologically it really disturbs people's minds. And when they come to the temple, it's better if they feel that you're being respectful. That's an art, to be respectful, to get what you need, to communicate it to people, but showing respect to them. It's really important. But what was the actual question? How to process it? How it can be misapplied?
The question is, can you please elaborate on the slapping incident of Harichandan so it may not be misapplied or given wrong reference for?
Yeah, it's best not to slap anybody. Really, it's not necessary. So, but pure devotees can do it, and then you get if some pure devotee slaps you, you could take it as a benediction. And in fact, I remember once I was in Varshana, and it was a long time ago. I didn't know what was going to happen. People were milling around, and then the door opened suddenly, and people just rushed, and I got jostled really hard. And I kind of felt afterwards, I wish I had that much enthusiasm to run for it was more than I ever would have put into running towards the deities. They just freaked out and turned around and ran, and they didn't care who was in the way. It's the same in Jaipur, Radha Govinda Mangalartik. I remember once in the middle of it, when they bring the lamp out, they don't pass it around, they just hold it up like this. And then the crowd, like 2,000 people, they surged towards it, and I thought, whoa! And you feel the bhav of the crowd, because they're all reaching, they don't care. And also, I remember one Ekadashi, I was doing parikrama Vṛndāvana, the last Ekadashi in Kartik. And going through Keshi Ghat, there's a little cave. I don't know if it's still there, but you go in there. So I got in there, and like 10 people could come in, but one could go out. And people don't stop. It's not like the crowd's going to stop coming in. And I kind of just thinking of crowds and what can happen and how you react to it. I was looking to see if I could grab anything higher, but then I thought, this wouldn't be so bad. If I get crushed in here, everyone will say, he died at Keshi Ghat. You don't want to be less Kashi of Kartik. Prabhu.
I just wanted to add that it's also about the nature of the devotees, and
that's true.
And particularly about Srivas Thakur. This incident in Chaitanya Bhagavat, when his wife was there cleaning the paraphernalia for worship, and a big crow came, took one silver small pot, and flew away, and she started crying. And Nityananda Prabhu saw her, why are you crying? Well, my husband's short temper. When he sees that, so she particularly mentions that he can do that.
That's right.
And that's also, but she was just saying that, and
yeah.
Nityananda Prabhu called back the crow, and she brought back the but the point is, she was mentioning that, so devotees, they have their own character, etc. But
they do. And just going back to the question at hand, to be more straightforward, you can lose anger or use anger, but it's really rare that people use their anger in Krishna service. It takes a lot of clarity, lucidity, to actually use anger in Krishna service. Most people lose their anger and then they say, yeah, I meant to do that. So it's, in my experience, it's better to be circumspect and careful about using your anger in Krishna service, because usually, unless it's absolutely pure, the result is inordinate. You get back a lot more reaction than is worth it. So it's better to stay cool, calm, and collected. I can remember one time when I used the sense of anger to one kid on Canal Street in New York. I was distributing books with a godbrother in Dodie's, and some kid, he was probably like 18 or something like that, he disrespected us when I approached him. He was very condescending. And it wasn't like I lost my anger, but my temper, but I didn't just brush it off. He said something, I don't give to beggars or something like that. I said, I'm not a beggar. I said, we have something that you don't have that's very valuable. And I can't remember everything I said, but the mood in which I said it was putting it back at him. And I saw it was visible that he gave up his punkish nature, which was like, he thought he was like flicking a bug on me or something like that, and just brushing us off. But he saw that there was something behind, we had something behind what we were doing, and we weren't going to take it from him. But it wasn't anger, but it was, that's the only time I can remember thinking, okay, that worked, and it wasn't, I lost my anger. But I think it's really rare to have that. So to not misapply it, it's better to learn how to control anger. And oftentimes the result from that is much more noticeably positive, because people are used to people losing their anger and then trying to apologize for it or making an excuse for it. And if you don't react or become angry, people are oftentimes taken aback, and they wonder, like, how did that happen? Just my reflection on that question. So that brings us to almost, what time did we end last night? Gopal.
I wanted to ask about the aspect of the Dvārakā Līlas. So this is Kurukṣetra Līla, Mahāprabhu in the mood of Radharāṇī. And then, is there an incident or history of the Brajbasis going to Dvārakā?
Yeah.
Trying to bring Krishna?
Not Dvārakā, Kurukṣetra. So it's this chapter 13 is parallel with the 10th canto, 82nd chapter of the Bhagavatam. And what happens in that chapter is that Krishna decides to go to Kurukṣetra to perform sacrifice during the eclipse of the sun. And his hidden agenda is to see the residents of Vṛndāvana. But the thing is that he stayed away from Vṛndāvana. He didn't want to attract attention to Vṛndāvana because all these demons were on the planet still. And if he had gone to Vṛndāvana any time and they go, oh, Krishna's in Vṛndāvana, they would have gone there and tried to destroy it and kill everybody there. Such heavy demons. And so Krishna had this plan that he would get everybody to come to Kurukṣetra, but his real interest was getting the resident of Vṛndāvana, Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, to come there so they could see him without him having to go to Vṛndāvana. And so Krishna came with his minions, millions and millions of people, and everybody knew about it. At that time there were bards that would go out and they would announce when these festivals were coming up, and they played drums and they'd sing it out. No internet at that time. And they came to Vṛndāvana, the Brajabasis heard about it. Not all of them went. The cowherd boys didn't go. Gopis went, parents went. There's a whole explanation about that. It has to do with that idea of bhava, that Krishna's there in his bhava form, and according to the relationship different devotees have with Krishna in their bhava form, like the cowherd boys, they think he's still there. So it's like, why would we go anywhere? He's still here. He's still here in Vṛndāvana, where the gopis have this different sense of complete separation in bhava. And so they wanted to go there. So they got their covered wagons, they got their milk products, they all went to Kurukṣetra. And meanwhile, these armies came and sages came from all over the universe. It was a who's who. And they all got there, and Krishna was holding forth for the great souls who had come from many places. And then he got the message that the residents of Vṛndāvana were there. So he politely ended the conversation and went as soon as possible. He first met with his parents, and they just saw him as a little child, even though he was dressed as, in kingly dress and everything like that. They held, especially Yashoda, she was catatonic practically. They tried to talk to her, the other women, and they said, "Forget it, she's gone." And Nanda and Yashoda were holding Krishna and Balaram on their laps, even though they were grown. That's their complete absorption in that rasa. And then after that, Krishna went and he met with the gopīs, and then he met with Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. And it's in that conversation that she expresses that the meaning of that song that we heard, Yako Madharasa Eva Hivaras, that song was about a lover who was remembering back when she first met her lover, and now things were different, and she wanted to go back to that place and feel that exhilaration with the moon and the tree and the river, and remember how that was. And so that was what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was singing, and then it got transposed into not transposed, but translated into the real thing. That's the one Rupa Goswami sang. And it's about that conversation, because they're there at Kurukṣetra, and she says, Krishna says, "Here I am," and she says, "Yeah, but not like this. This is what I had in mind. Where's the flute? Where's the peacock feather? Where's the Jamuna? Where's the Govardhana?" It's because the backdrop of Vṛndāvana is what it stimulates that unique kind of love that the residents of Vṛndāvana have. They go together. Rajo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayasta Dhamma Vṛndāvanam. There's no difference between Krishna and Vṛndāvana. And so that's where she says, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, if Krishna says to her, then, "Yeah, well, here, come with me to Dvārakā." And so, no, you come with us to Vṛndāvana. And she, in that conversation that's there in chapter 82, Krishna is equivocating again. And he's saying, well, I stayed away from Vṛndāvana. We talked about this the other day. I stayed away from Vṛndāvana. It was by the Lord's inconceivable arrangement. And then Radharani says, no, wait a minute. You are the Lord. She's saying, Lord Narayan made me do it. And like, you are Lord Narayan. And then he finally admits, Mai bhakti bhutanam amritat vaya kalpate dishta ya asin matsneho bhavatina madapanaha. Said, you've defeated me, because this love, this unique love that you have for me, it's beyond what I could repay. That's naparayeham, and it's he says it guarantees eternal life for everybody. But what he's saying is that your love is so unique, it's overpowered me, and it's nothing that I could reciprocate here. And when he admits finally that you're everything to me, Dvāraka's nothing, none of this means anything, only you mean something to me, or everything to me, and then they're satisfied. And that's where it comes to a head in that section of chapter 82. And it's the verse, Ahushchate nalina namba padara vindam yogeshwara hridi vichintya agada bodhai samsara kupa patito taranava geham jusham apimanas udayat sadhana. They're saying we're just simple householders. What do we know And all this advice you're giving us about meditation and seeing me everywhere, said, no, these are for great sages. We're just simple householders. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, actually, this is sarcastic anger, because they're saying to Krishna in parokshavad, indirect language, that who do you think you're talking to? We're gopīs. I mean, this is ridiculous, Krishna, talking to us like this with all this philosophy, It's us. And says poetically that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, like the instruction you're giving us is like the sunshine, and it's withering us. We don't want sunshine. We want the moonshine of your beauty, of your face and things like that. We don't want to hear about Gyan or yoga or bhakti and stuff like that. And so that's also part of chapter 82, and the confluence or the clash of these two places, of Krishna and Dvārakā, and then the gopīs coming from Vṛndāvana and want him to pull him back. And then so that's what Prabhupada explained in that purport. That's where it happens. That's Ratha-yatra. And then that's where they're pulling him back to Vṛndāvana, saying, come back with us. Because we can't do it here. We can't be the way we were before. Mukharvin? You better use the mic, otherwise everyone's in the dark.
Ahushchate Nalinam, that Ahushchate Nalinabha verse is the last verse, but that comes after Krishna feels he's defeated, or because the Mahir Bhakti Rupatanam is the previous, like it comes previous in the sense, and then the last verse is the Ahushchate Nalinabha. So how the sequence goes, like first...
It's in the conversation, practically happening simultaneously. It's just their conversation. Yes?
I remember in L.A. this year you gave this nice analogy, which I thought was very fitting, that this pastime at Kurukṣetra is like an estuary of transcendental emotions and feelings, because you have such a contrast between the two moods of Dvārakā and Vṛndāvana, but in the midst of that, you were pointing out that an estuary is generally one of the most potent ecological systems on the planet, where many forms of life can exist and thrive. So I was thinking how this pastime, it nourishes devotees so much. It's a constant conversation, topic of conversation amongst devotees. So this estuary example, I'm just remembering and appreciating, especially after your explanation.
Thank you. Yeah, the tension's really high, because what's going to happen when the two worlds collide? And also that whole sense of tension that they're so close. Now after over 100 years, they haven't seen Krishna. Now they come there, and they're this close, but it's not going to happen. Not here. So it's, as one very senior devotee said once, it's like at a football game. The whole game's on the line, and then they get down to the 1 yard line, and then the clock runs out, and everyone's it didn't happen. Okay, we got to end.
Is this why in Bhaktisiddhānta Vaibhava it's mentioned that Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī considered Kurukṣetra the highest place of services because of the tension which is taking place in this particular pastime?
That is it. That it said when there's greatest need of Radharani, if you serve then it becomes more potent. So that's the amazing thing, that Prabhupada brought that culture to the world, but kind of in a popular festival that hippies could jump in on, and anybody else going by like beep beep, yeah, parade. But who knew that it's the pinnacle of the spiritual emotion that takes place there. It could go into it eternally, and that's the Ratha-yatra that Prabhupada brought to the world. So that brings us to the end of our reading today, and I'm very happy to say that we not only met, surpassed, but we smashed our our goal for pages today. Thanks to Amrita Sagar for keeping us on track, using his degree, partial degree from UC Berkeley to calculate where we are and where we have to stop. Thank you very much. Dear Śrīla Prabhupada, all good? Anything? Dear Śrīla Prabhupada, dear Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, Śrī Panchatattva, Śrī Radha Madan Mohan, Śrī Guṇḍicā, Śrī Krishna Balaram, Śrī Radhe Shyam. If you so desire, please let us always be attracted to the pastimes of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu and to serving his Sankirtan movement for the poor people all over the world who are spiritual paupers. Please let us distribute the wealth of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Please empower us to do so. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Haribo. 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo. 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Vanchakalpataruscha kripasinabheva patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Now, I heard last night they didn't bring out the lamps till much later, so devotees had to stay up late to offer their lamp. So we're going to offer a lamp now and sing the Damodar Ashtakam. I tried to do something inventive last night that we do at Radha-kund when we're there on our yatra, which is that one person does the puja for the Radha-kund, but everybody else is interconnected because one person's holding on to another. I don't know if logistically it can work, but I tried to do that last night. Yes. Didn't I, Sudhira? Yes. You didn't understand what I was trying to do at first. But that was it, because then if we're offering the lamp and we're all interconnected, it's up to you. You can always also a lamp up there, but we've tried it before to have multiple lamps in here, and it's prohibitive. So they don't have we're all one anyway. So let's move the chairs out, and then we'll start the worship of Damodar and the Vṛndāvana. And yesterday I had a wife, I don't know. What are you looking for? My wife. Oh, I had a wife yesterday. Can you make it in here?